Ladies and gentlemen, President Trump has just declared war on the IRS, and no, I'm not kidding. Now, as you might have heard, on the campaign trail, President Trump was not only talking about getting rid of tax on tips, but also completely abolishing the federal income tax altogether. Now, I know what you're thinking. How would the government pay for anything if they're not taxing us? Well, President Trump has a plan for that. Take a look at this video from just yesterday evening.
America is going to be very rich again, and it's going to happen very quickly. It's time for the United States to return to the system that made us richer and more powerful than ever before. Do you know the United States in 1870 to 1913, all tariffs, and that was the richest period in the history of the United States, relatively speaking. In other words, relatively. And they set up the Great Tariff Commission of 1887, and this commission had one function: what to do with all the money that we took in. It was so enormous that they had no idea. It was a blue ribbon committee. It was set up 1887, and what to do with all of the money that we had. And again, Teddy Roosevelt was a beneficiary, because when McKinley was killed, he took over this vast sum of money, and he did all of those national parks and all of the other things. And I'm not knocking him, but he was given a vast amount of money. And that was all made through tariffs. We had no income tax. The income tax came in 1913. As I said in my speech last week, instead of taxing our citizens to enrich foreign nations, we should be tariffing and taxing foreign nations to enrich our citizens. Does that make sense, right?
So there you have it. We are going back to the glory days. You see, what President Trump wants to do is replace the IRS, the Internal Revenue Service, with the ERS, the External Revenue Service, which would focus on imposing appropriate trade tariffs on foreign countries, effectively taxing other countries as opposed to taxing Americans. In fact, take a look at President Trump's recent statement on the External Revenue Service from just a couple weeks ago. For far too long, we have relied on taxing our great people using the Internal Revenue Service, IRS. Through soft and pathetically weak trade agreements, the American economy has delivered growth and prosperity to the world while taxing ourselves. It is time for that to change. I am today announcing that I will create the External Revenue Service to collect our tariffs, duties, and all revenue that comes from foreign sources. We will begin charging those that make money off of us with trade, and they will start paying, finally, their fair share. January 20th, 2025 will be the birth date of the External Revenue Service. Make America great again. So there you have it. How awesome is that? And by the way, there's actually a huge precedent for this economic approach. You see, for most of American history, we never even had a federal income tax. We actually couldn't. It was unconstitutional prior to the 13th Amendment's ratification in 1913. So what this means is that for the first 130-something years of American history, our federal government paid for everything by imposing trade tariffs on foreign countries. Now, if this is surprising to you, it's probably because our tax-hungry bureaucrats in Washington, D.C. don't want you to know this. But in reality, America operated without an income tax longer than it's operated with an income tax. Also, by the way, when America saw its most economic development and economic prosperity, guess what? There was no income tax. Go figure. And now, real quick, I do want to say, guys, if you enjoy the content, please consider subscribing to the channel, because it actually does help a lot. Every single day, I feel like I'm battling with the YouTube algorithm, and between you and me, I need all the help I can get. But okay, so when Trump stepped back into the White House last week, he unleashed a flurry of executive orders, one of which was to immediately halt the hiring of any new IRS agents. As you may have heard, under the Biden administration, around 87,000 new IRS agents were hired. Well, here's what Trump has to say about that.
Day one, I immediately halted the hiring of any new IRS agents. You know, they hired or tried to hire 88,000 new workers to go after you, and we're in the process of developing a plan to either terminate all of them, or maybe we'll move them to the border. I think we're going to move them to the border. Well, they're allowed to carry guns. You know, they're so strong on guns, but these people are allowed to carry guns, so we'll probably move them to the border. Yeah. She said no tax on it. How about just no tax?
Wow, so there's an idea. How about protecting our southern border as opposed to weaponizing the federal government against hardworking middle-income Americans? But okay, check this out. Did you guys ever wonder why the Biden administration thought it was necessary to hire 87,000 new IRS agents? Well, I'll tell you why. You see, President Biden's Treasury Secretary, a woman named Janet Yellen, came up with this genius plan to fix Biden's crumbling economy. What's the plan, you might ask? Well, to punish the American middle class, of course. You see, what she did was impose new IRS audit regulations, 90% of which were targeting the middle class, really anyone making less than $400,000 per year. So, just to be very clear, because I feel like this doesn't get the attention it deserves, amidst Joe Biden's terrible economy, they hatched up a plan to hire 87,000 new IRS agents so that they could say they're creating jobs. Then they used them to drastically increase tax audits on the middle class. So here's your daily reminder. Not only are the Democrats incredibly moronic, but they also hate you. But okay, that's enough of Joe Biden and his little gremlin Janet Yellen. Let's get back to talking about Donald Trump's plan. So, although President Trump can pretty much impose trade tariffs as he sees fit, as we've recently seen, he has to go through Congress to reduce the federal income tax. Luckily, President Trump has a Republican House and Senate that are both willing to work with him. So let me give you guys my take here. I think over the next couple months, we're going to see the Department of Government Efficiency, the DOGE, make cut after cut to the federal budget, removing all of the fat and the bloat. At the same time, I think President Trump continues to impose trade tariffs in an effort to rectify and balance out any trade deficits that are just a little bit too egregious. Because, by the way, something you'll never hear the mainstream media talk about, almost every single country on the face of the planet selectively imposes trade tariffs on us, so it's only fair that we can do the same. But anyway, as the DOGE is cutting costs and Trump is imposing tariffs, I expect that we'll see the Republicans try to push a big tax cut bill in the next couple months on top of all of this. So I'll tell you what, guys, I think things are looking pretty bright right now. But hey, I think that's all I've got for you guys today. I really do think that we're living in revolutionary times. Things are going to be changing very fast. And I don't know about you guys, but personally, I'm feeling pretty darn optimistic. In fact, I don't know how you can't feel optimistic right now. Have we ever had a president in recent history that was looking to fundamentally change the way this country operates in a positive way as much as President Trump? It's just undeniable. President Trump is a change maker. When looking at Trump's agenda, you realize just how lazy and complacent most other politicians are. You begin to realize that we don't just have to accept all of these old, bloated systems that don't even properly work anymore. We can change them. We just need two things: the will of the people to do so and the man at the top to make it happen. And so I'll tell you what, it sure seems like we have those two things right now. So if I had to levy a guess, I would bet that this country looks a whole lot different 4 years from now. So I want to know what you guys have to say about all of this, so please go down below and drop a comment. Please like the video, but only if you liked it. Please consider subscribing. Like I said earlier, it really does help a ton. Thank you all very much for watching, and of course, as always, stay safe.